I think this chapter for any One Piece fan was a realization of things, specifically that One Piece is ending. I actually read the chapter last night, but you know, I had my top 30 stream and all that stuff, so it was delayed, but I enjoyed the delay for this time because I had time to sit with the chapter. When I was reading the chapter, when I did my live reaction, it was very emotional for me. It felt like I had found something, even though I didn't find anything at all, right? It was just the end of the chapter. We know what happened, but man, I can't explain to you how weird it felt, but I just got really emotional because I started feeling like One Piece was definitely coming to an end. I thought of Bleach, and specifically Tekking 101. When Tekking did a live reaction to the final chapter of Bleach, thousands of people came out to see his live reaction to the final chapter. And I was thinking of the final chapter of One Piece and how that would be, just knowing that next week there would be no new chapter of One Piece. Like that would be the end of the story. That's the feeling I got. It was really scary, and I don't know, man, it's still scary thinking about it to this day. I just wanted to say that before I get into the chapter, because I've been thinking about this chapter all day, really all day. And I'm trying to get the proper words, and I don't know if I want this to be a typical review where I'm going through everything that happened, but I have to because it's so important. I feel like we've broken through another level in regards to One Piece, in which we've seen Roger's journey, and I think it's brilliant how Oda intertwined Roger, Oden, and Whitebeard without giving us too much, whereas we can still experience Luffy's journey and not feel like we've done it before. But by giving us Luffy's journey and all the places that Luffy has visited, and then going back and showing us that Roger visited a lot of these places, it was just amazing. I can't really tell you guys just how great it feels being a longtime One Piece fan and experiencing this. It was like a feeling of gratitude that you have been able to enjoy this quality of a series for so long. But let's get into it. You guys understand the beginning of the chapter, right? That moment with Buggy and Shanks where they're arguing as far as like which Arctic is colder, where Buggy's saying the Arctic and Shanks is saying the Antarctic. And that's when really hit them and said stop fighting all the time. This is a direct callback to chapter 19, in which we see Buggy and Shanks, they're arguing about the North and South Pole, and that's when really hit them. It was a direct callback. I reread this entire chapter 19 of One Piece, and of course the art style was different, but what was important and what resonated with me, Shanks's and Buggy's dialogue, where Shanks says, as captain of my own ship, I'll make time to see the world. I'll do some pirating along the way, of course. And Buggy says, well, you're still a soft fool. If you weren't so soft, I'd ask you to join my crew. Shanks then says, we think differently, because Buggy was saying that he could work for him. He said, we think differently. It'd be better if we go our separate ways. Being a pirate is all about going your own way. And then Buggy says, how would you know what being a pirate is about? If we ever cross paths on the high seas, it'll be a fight to the finish. Agreed? Then Shanks says, agreed. That's also what being a pirate is all about. This isn't about Shanks per se, but I think his view on being a pirate, in which carving out your own way, seeing the world, and also settling disputes. It seems that there's so much depth to Shanks and his character, where I'm glad that this chapter 967 took me back to chapter 19, because I think there's something there in regards to what Shanks is currently doing as far as like Shanks's mission in the One Piece world. Like he said, a pirate is all about going your own way. To get back to 967 though, it's all about the Poneglyphs and Roger and Oden, and Roger is currently trying to find the road Poneglyphs to find the One Piece. They've already been to Lodestar. That's not the final island. We have to get to the final island. How do we do that? I was about to say Raftel, but we have to get to the final island. There's a translation out there that said Whitebeard gave Roger a poneglyph. That is the incorrect translation. The translation that I'm reading doesn't say anything about that, and it doesn't match up as far as the number of poneglyphs. First off, Oden, Neko, and Inu confirmed that Zoe and Wano, they have 2 road poneglyphs, or 1 road poneglyph each. And Roger's telling them, you should have told me this a while ago. This is what I've been looking for. He says he got a rubbing from Big Mom. There's one in Zoe, there's one in Wano, and he has an idea where the other might be. And again, in one translation, it said that Whitebeard gifted the poneglyph to Roger. This is not in the translation I'm reading. Once the official comes out, I will do another discussion just to make sure I'm capturing all the information out there. And the official source is the best way to do so. However, this chapter was too wholesome to ignore. We see Roger meeting Tom in Water 7. And as cool as it is, Roger seeing Tom, I enjoyed it more seeing characters I've seen real time in the story. Iceberg, Kokoro, Frankie. Frankie actually met Oden, and Oden asked him, hey, do you want to come with us? And he says, I don't want to do anything with you pirates. You'll just abandon me too. If you remember Frankie, when he was younger, his parents threw him off their ship, so he has a disdain for pirates, towards pirates. I think something interesting here that we have to focus on is the fact that Oden has changed. Oden, when we first got introduced to him, he wanted nothing to do with stragglers. He would meet them, then he would tell them, take care. Oden went up to this orphan and said, hey, do you want to come with us? And this is the direct influence of Whitebeard, where Whitebeard, being an orphan himself, went around picking up orphans, i.e. Blackbeard. And Frankie was this close to being on the Pirate King's ship. I'm sure he doesn't even remember that, but that's really cool. Like, I think the callbacks have been beautiful in this flashback. Just seeing characters that we haven't seen in a long time or characters we've seen before. It's this feeling of nostalgia that you can't escape. The Bing Sake rendition hit me because you're seeing Oden just growing up. Again, the change that I just referenced, and seeing him with his family and seeing the different places that they're going to. It just made me feel weird, bro. I just really can't pinpoint like why I'm feeling this way, but they're on their way to Fishman Island. And they mentioned Sabaody. It's interesting with Rayleigh and Sabaody because we know Rayleigh now, he stays at Sabaody and that's where we meet him and all this stuff. But they're on their way to Fishman Island, and Roger and Oden, we know they have the voice of all things and they're hearing the Sea Kings. They're wondering what's going on, where they're hearing all the noise from. And I don't remember this conversation, but I believe Neptune back in the day mentioned that he met Roger, but we see here Roger meeting Neptune and he's like, yo, it's me. Neptune is Roger. This confused me initially because the first translation I read with the Whitebeard Poneglyph, it was all over the place. But this one was saying they started blaming Roger for something. He said, I didn't do anything. And they're saying, well, you haven't done anything yet. And that's another callback to Luffy and Roger, the parallels there. Because remember Luffy, they said to Luffy that at some point he will destroy Fishman Island. The prophecy here, and they said there's something that only a man of Roger's caliber can achieve, is that the doors to Fishman Island will be open for everyone and the border between our worlds will be no more. I'm not gonna lie, like this chapter, as wholesome as it was, I read it so many times because I'm like, what is happening here? I think what's cool though with all these prophecies is that King Neptune, they're telling him all these things is going to happen. Like the king is going to have a daughter in the future. He's going to get married, all this different stuff. He's like, I'm not even married yet. I just became the king. But they started talking about the prophecy from Shirley, who at age 3 is doing this. And they said a carp was going to marry into the royal family. And then they also said, and Queen Otahime has been leading political demonstrations, demanding the king to better our relationship with humans. Shows that their futures aligned, which I'm like, if you know the prophecy, right, does that more so incline you to go towards whatever the prophecy is telling you? I mean, no matter what, it seems like you can't escape it. So you might as well just, you know, let it happen. I think something also that shows itself this chapter is how invaluable Oden is. Like him reading and translating the Poneglyphs helps so much for Roger. Without him, he wouldn't be the Pirate King. That's insane. But in Fishman Island, they came across 2 Poneglyphs. Oden said one wasn't important, but one was an apology from Joy Boy. At some point, I'll make a video on Joy Boy and who Joy Boy was to bring some more understanding as to who Joy Boy is and what he represents, because he's going to be very important to the end game of One Piece. But then they started talking about the Poneglyphs and then the ancient weapons. But it's cool that Neptune broke it down for Roger and says that every 100 years Poseidon, the god of the seas, reborn. His hidden power to destroy the world lays dormant inside a pure maiden. And he said, to put it simply, more than likely my daughter is the weapon that will destroy the world. But that's as far as this prophecy goes. I have no idea what type of person she will be. And Oden is so much in this fatherhood role is that he's telling Neptune, yo, I can give you some tips on fatherhood if you want. Like, I've been a dad, I got 2 kids, I'm ready for you, B. So that's always great to see. And I like the banter between Roger and Neptune. Roger went to Shirley and asked, when will Shirahoshi be born? She said 10 years. And Neptune's like, well, there you have it, Roger. I'm kind of disappointed and concerned that you're showing so much interest in my family affairs. Where he's kind of saying, are you trying to come and steal my daughter away? And Rayleigh's like, hey, Neptune, no, man, that's not what we're about. We just want to know about the treasure left behind by the weapon's creator. We're not interested in the weapon, right, Roger? Like, Rayleigh's just curious because we know Roger, a personality trait that's been showing through a lot more is him being very inquisitive. So for Rayleigh's like, Roger, you're not interested in that, right? Because typically Roger, it seems like whatever he's interested in, he's going to research and he's going to find out more about. So Rayleigh, I think, was kind of hoping he wasn't super interested in the weapons. Roger's like, I never said I was interested in that. And don't worry, I don't have enough time left to come and steal your shaggy daughter. And Neptune's like, why do you think she'll be shaggy? Because so that was a really cool back and forth. But then seeing them going to these different islands, I believe we see them on Raijin Island and they came across another Poneglyph. As far as the final location of the Poneglyph, I think that's going to be revealed at some other point, because if we try to say, okay, Big Mom still has her Poneglyph, Kaido has his Poneglyph, and we know Zoe had the other road Poneglyph. Where did this final Poneglyph go? And say Roger had this Poneglyph, say it was passed down to Shanks or somebody like that. Does Blackbeard now have this final Poneglyph? Or if Blackbeard doesn't have it, does the world government have it? Like, where's this final Poneglyph? I think seeing the Roger pirates enjoy their voyage with Oden and Neko and Scopper and Rayleigh, it just brought a smile to my face, because they're so much like Luffy's crew, where they're just happy-go-lucky, where the idea of just being a pirate on the seas literally just means I want to do whatever I want to do. It has nothing to do with being the strongest or whatever. Of course, that helps, right? Because strength in One Piece, that means you can make the decisions. So strength is necessary. But at the end of the day, they just want to live free on the seas. That's honestly what Luffy wants, to be the freest pirate on the seas, to be the freest man on the sea. That's what Roger was. There's an interesting character moment here where Oden has to choose between adventure and family. Not truly, but Toki gets sick and they say, well, we have to go back to Wano. They go back to Wano, see Kinemon, Kanjuro, Raizo, Kawamatsu, and Kiku. And they're all telling Oden, hey, you gotta stay behind with Toki. Like, they're trying to tell him, like, this is your wife, you know, you have to stay behind and help her. She's sick. And Toki's like, think about what you're saying. Oden made a promise to Roger, and I don't want to be the reason that he breaks that. And I've been documenting Oden turning into this family man, enjoying his family, being so much about his family. And now he has to make this decision where he goes against his super adventurous side and that family man. And we saw what went out here, the adventurous side. And that's not to say he doesn't love his family. He just can't tame that side. Like, he's so close to the history of the world, he can't turn back now. A key thing here, which is going to be relevant going forward, is when he said, I could tell my country had changed without even turning around to look, because if I turned around, I knew that I would never again leave this island. It's like I couldn't stand to look at it with my own eyes. Something I had been talking about was Oden promising Whitebeard he was going to come back on his crew, but I think seeing Wano in that state or feeling it, he knew after Roger's voyage, he had to go back to Wano. And of course, his family was there too, so he had to go back to Wano. And even if he didn't plan on staying, once he got there and saw how bad it was or how much it had changed, he would want to try and fix it, because now he has to go against Orochi and be a bit more political. And it was so much there he had to balance. He had to put his family and his country first at that point. But I'm sure we'll see more of that. Oden even said 4 years later, a homecoming like this would not be waiting for me. And it's funny, Kinemon and Kanjuro, they called him trash or scum for leaving his wife and kids. And then Roger called him scum. And he's like, yo, you can't even read the Poneglyphs. What are you talking about? You need me. Something I also mentioned in my live reaction was the fact that Roger had a favor card to Zoe. And now I'm starting to think that people in Wano, the higher ups, they had favor cards to Zoe. So whoever betrayed Zoe, I think, is a higher up from Wano. It could be one of the scabbards as well. Because at this point, favor cards to Zoe, I would have to think Wano is where you would get one, because they have an alliance. They have a pact, a bond. So that's how I feel about it. We meet this Duke, and I don't know how to pronounce their last name, so don't ask me. And they show that they're worried about Neku and Inu. And it's interesting seeing the hierarchy for the Mink tribe, because, you know, before Neku and Inu, we didn't see, we saw people, but we didn't see an actual name and anything. Oden and Roger, them having the voice of all things, I think is cool because they bonded over that. I wonder at some point, right? Do you think Rayleigh got a bit insecure because of how close Oden and Roger was getting? Because I'm sure they spent a lot of time together. They both had Conqueror's Haki, voice of all things. I mean, it's something small, right? I don't think Rayleigh would ever get insecure, but it's just a human personality thing that sometimes I think about. Stupid. But anyway, they find the road Poneglyph, and then they find the Kazuki clan seal. And it seems like Oden wasn't aware, right? Because he's like, this means that we're sworn brothers with the Minks. And I was like, yeah, I thought Neku and Inu would mention that, you know? But we see the moment with Pedro where he meets Roger. And that's the thing, right? We're seeing so many callbacks to things we've seen in the story. It's like you're reliving these moments that you saw Pedro talk to Roger. You're like, oh my God, bro, I can't wait till we find out more about Roger. And seeing it now is just beautiful. And then they find 4 road Poneglyphs, and then they have to go to the final island. Something weird, but cool. First off, Roger was really sick. He was coughing really badly. Where, you know, the typical kid hearing their adult or their dad or their elder coughing so badly, then they try to go, you know, open the door, and then Shanks tries to open the door, and Roger comes out like, hey man, have you guys figured out our destination yet? And you can see it on his face, just how much the sickness has aged him. Because as brilliant as he looked when we saw him when he was about to fight Whitebeard, he looked so old and ragged now, less than a year later. So that sickness was really getting to him. I'm sure his crew knew, because they asked, you know, when do you want to leave? He's like, let's go right now. Buggy and Shanks, again, their relationship is interesting because Buggy comes down with, you'll die if you go to that island disease. The same thing Usopp comes down with a lot. And I think it's a real disease. So I think the cool thing here is that Usopp's lies, again, turning into truths. I don't think Buggy would fake going to a treasure island. Like, Buggy loves treasure. So I think he was genuinely coming down with a disease. But this is weird, right? Because remember I went back to chapter 19 and Shanks was saying all this stuff about, hey, we're going to go our separate ways and, you know, we'll meet on the seas and settle the score. And here Shanks is saying, don't worry, Buggy. One day we'll sail there with our own ship, meaning he was going to stay back with Buggy. So Shanks and Buggy did not go to Raftel, which gives us some more information in regards to their relationship, but also with Shanks wanting to explore so much of the world. I'm surprised he's not chasing to become the Pirate King as vigorously as I would expect. I mean, sure, he didn't go, but he should have a general idea in regards to where it is, right? Something interesting to talk about another day. So news got out. It's like, breaking news. Roger has finally answered the unanswered mystery of the world. He conquered the Grand Line. He's the greatest pirate that's ever lived. He's the king of the pirates. Oden gave us some backstory, Oden gave us a peek behind the curtain. He said, we learned about everything in the world. We learned about the 4th century. We learned about the meaning of the D name. We learned about the ancient weapons. I at least learned that Wano had connected with the world in the past. But do you want to know what GOL D Roger, king of the pirates, did when the treasure he sought was placed in front of his very eyes? He laughed. We laughed as well, to the point where tears started pouring out of our eyes. And Roger says this, Joy Boy, I really wish I had been born in the same era as you. You left behind such an unbelievable treasure. What a funny story. Hey guys, how about we name this last island that no one arrived at yet in the past 800 years this? Laugh Tale, and beyond the furthest ends of it all. That final panel with Roger laughing is the embodiment of One Piece, smiling in the face of death. He was approaching death, but coming across this treasure, he laughed. I think it's best to make a separate video on the final treasure and that final meaning behind Roger's laugh, because Rayleigh left some words as well when Luffy was asking about it. Well, not Luffy, Robin more so. So I want to talk about that in detail. But this chapter, very wholesome. It gave us a different feeling. It was just a different moment. I feel great. But the feeling of completion is getting there. I feel like One Piece is getting there. As far as the treasure and Joy Boy, what they found, we'll make videos on that. But for right now, seeing the Pirate King find the treasure. Treasure's in front of him and he laughs at the treasure and says, I really wish I had been born in the same era as you. People were asking, well, it used to say Raftel. Like, what is Laugh Tale? What is this about? Well, One Piece Stampede recently, that's what they called it, Laugh Tale, in which they had a, spoiler alert, eternal pose to Laugh Tale. So it changed the whole perception of what Laugh Tale means to a lot of people. Instead of Laugh Tale, it is a tale of the D clan. So, oh my gosh, this chapter made me feel really good. It really made my weekend. I really can't wait for the next chapter, but that should be like 3 weeks from now. I will be dropping videos on this chapter, on Laugh Tale, on Raftel, on Joy Boy, on the Void Century. We will be talking about this stuff. So leave your thoughts below. What did you feel about this chapter? How did this chapter make you feel? I want to know. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.